Are teams starting to figure out Bruce Cassidy's system? We'll get into that. That's our topic of the day right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Find us wherever you get your podcast, and please make sure to subscribe to Locked On Golden Knights, our YouTube channel. We are brought to you today by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Chris, I felt at times this season that VGK was perhaps too predictable. There weren't many new wrinkles or changes to that system that Bruce Cassidy has installed, at least at the start of games. Cassidy good with in-game adjustments. We give him a ton of credit there. I know you were a critic in the first round exit to Dallas. You said that Pete DeBoer outcoached Bruce Cassidy, the Suntan Kid. I got a new nickname for him today. Was this because perhaps the league has caught up to Cassidy's system? What are your thoughts?
Caught up? I don't know if that's the right answer. Look at, first of all, Coach Cassidy's track record going back to his head coaching days with Boston. Since Bruce Cassidy has become a head coach in today's NHL, not the NHL when he got fired by George McPhee a while back, he's been in the playoffs every single season going back to 2016, been in 2 Stanley Cup finals, and of course, won the Stanley Cup recently with the Golden Knights. You look at the way this season started. You look at the pockets that the Golden Knights had last season. You look at even down the stretch, the Golden Knights had some really good pockets of play. I think Coach Cassidy's system works with, I mean, this is not a hot take yet, but Coach Cassidy's system works when you have high IQ players on the ice, when you have superstars on the ice. When you start getting injuries and things like that, I don't know if Cassidy's system is friendly enough to younger players. I don't know if players who don't get a lot of playing time with the team can step right in and a plug and play. The goalies are kind of plug and play as long as the system is working, but everyone else on the ice is not plug and play. So I don't think a system is outdated as much as it is reliant upon a mostly healthy roster that apparently needs a lot of chemistry coming into the playoffs.
Now, down in the minors here in Hendersonville, Ryan Craig is now running the same Cassidy system. So you're saying it's not plug and play, but it should be now that Henderson and the Silver Knights, we have them on the same page.
You make actually an extremely good point, and I didn't have that one. I didn't have a response ready for that. That's good.
I didn't have anything ready until you mentioned about they should be plug and play right now.
No, I mean, you're 100% right on that. And just because what should be and what is obviously are going to be 2 different things, unfortunately. I'm trying to find the Silver Knights. Okay, so Silver, and what is this? Oh, playoff record. No, why is that showing the regular season? All right, so the regular season Silver Knights here, I guess this is important now. 72 games played. They finished 8th place in the Pacific Division, not making the playoffs. They couldn't make it to the top 7. The top 7 teams in the Pacific Division make the playoffs, just as how the AHL is. It's kind of weird. Sure. So yes, I mean, you got me frazzled a little bit, Tony. I like this. I'm trying to come back to why the system is not working when Craig, who was on the same bench as Coach Cassidy, I mean, maybe they're not utilizing the same system. I don't know. I've been to a bunch of the games. It's hard to see the similarities and stuff. It's a similar game to the National League, but it's also a lot of differences, and you got a lot more players coming up and down. And you could argue that as the Henderson Silver Knights were sending players up, they were getting players from the ECHL, thus complicating the system, which is kind of my take about American League players coming up to Cassidy's system and not being able to plug and play instantly.
So Cassidy's offense relies on the forecheck. He wants that net front presence. He likes to break out fast defensively to create the odd man rushes. And the Stars, they countered very well. They always had a center man right there at neutral ice. And they really, I thought, again, countered Cassidy's offense and defense very well. And thus, that's why you said at the time, opponent in the Dallas Stars and Pete DeBoer out coaching, really, Bruce Cassidy in the game within the game. At times, we see Cassidy will counter also by doing different line changes to mix things up, like a first line against the third or what have you. His fourth line is the go-to even against a first line of an opponent.
And that's definitely an advantage the Golden Knights do have against a lot of teams in the league. Coach Cassidy has no fear of putting line 4 out there against line 1 from another team. I mean, you want to punish them. You want to make them think twice about going into the boards and things like that. Coach Cassidy's system relies heavily upon limiting the other team's rush opportunities and odd man rushes up the ice. On the offensive side of Coach Cassidy's system, it heavily relies upon creating rush opportunities and creating odd man rushes. I don't know what the numbers are, but Golden Knights are one of the best teams in the NHL off of the rush. They have other ways they can score too, but really off of the rush is where, I don't know how that measures with other teams in the NHL, but the Golden Knights really rely on that rush game. And then you go back to the Dallas series, it just felt like Dallas had more rushes, more odd man rushes, and the goaltending, Logan and Aiden, buried out the system more times than necessary, I guess. Where on the opposite side, there wasn't nearly as many rushes. Every now and then there was a breakdown in DeBoer's defense, but I don't think it was necessarily a product of Cassidy's system wearing down DeBoer. So, I mean, the topic, is the system outdated? I don't think it's outdated. But what is Cassidy able to get the players on the same page quick enough? I mean, we did hear the chemistry stuff from everyone who had a microphone in front of them during the exit interviews. So to a degree, there's an issue there, but it's also Coach Cassidy's job then. If you can't get if the players aren't on the same page from a chemistry perspective, then there needs to be some small changes made. Is it hard? Can you just change the system that you've applied for 82 games and then all of a sudden you get Mark Stone practicing for a week and boom, let's try something different game 1 of the playoffs? I don't know if that's applicable, but then I go back to the fact that the Golden Knights won the first 2 games of the series and they weren't able to either simplify things or improve things for games, obviously 3, 4, and 5, which is where the series was lost.
Simplification, that is a buzzword that we heard an awful lot.
Is that a real word, simplification? Is that legit?
Would
that score in Scrabble is the question.
Is Bruce Cassidy the suntan kid a correct phrase? Didn't Cassidy say this past season, I thought I recalled him saying something that teams were starting to read his system and prepare for them better? Something to that effect.
There's been comments like that. I think I go more or less back to one of the narratives that we were actually on pretty hard coming into the season, which was it being a copycat league.
I thought you might have said that they weren't practicing enough.
No, they practice too much, Tony. They practice too much, Tony.
They practice too much this season. Okay.
It's a copycat league. You look at what the Golden Knights and how they achieved winning the Stanley Cup last year. Started with the defensive core. That defensive core was just so on their game. Unfortunately, that was not as much the case this season, even with Noah Hannafin coming in, but maybe things will certainly be better next season. That's obviously the goal. Of course, there's questions about what that core is going to look like next season, and that's on the parking lot probably for tomorrow's show. I think we got our first segment already. Going back to just kind of the season in general and the system. I mean, look at the teams that are doing well in the playoffs right now. You look at the Dallas Stars. I think the two systems have a lot of similarities on the defensive side. DeBoer plays a more opportunistic game where I think he just waits for the other team to press a little too hard, and then boom, here come the Stars for those rush chances. But you kind of see what's happening in Carolina. Carolina's kind of deploying it a little bit. They're, sorry, Tony, kind of waiting for the Rangers to hang themselves and then coming on down and finding ways to score goals. Edmonton, Vancouver, that was fun watching those teams just put on actually a pretty good defensive game. So trying to see maybe which remaining teams in the playoffs are emulating what the Golden Knights did last year. And it's probably Florida, honestly, in that regard, just that heavy, tight checking game where the defense keeps everything to the outside. And, it's going to be a team like that wins the Stanley Cup, who has that defensive ability. And obviously the right goalie will help too, of course.
Low to high. We know that Cassidy really does
Blue Black Keys song, low high. Anyway, okay, sorry.
Low to high. He likes Eichel, especially below the goal line, and then he'll pass it out into the slot in front of the crease. And time again this season, teams were reading that. I felt defensively, they just had a defender, stay at home, basically, in front of the crease. And when that entry pass came from below the goal line, that's when we saw the VGK again. They were stymied. I think teams are starting to, I'm not saying it's overly predictable, but they are starting to read Cassidy's system a little bit better. And now I just don't know what changes or alterations they need to make, the VGK, in the offseason to counter that again.
The argument against what you're saying, Tony, is going to be the first 15 to 18 games of the season where the Golden Knights were relatively healthy, came shot out of a cannon, and everyone thought they were going to, run the table, so to speak, and win the Stanley Cup. At least that's what we thought in Southern Nevada. So that's the counter to that. Now, where I'll agree with you in the sense that I felt at times creativity lacked. Of course, it lacked in the playoffs, but even in times of struggle against poor teams, Columbus Blue Jackets, Anaheim Ducks, et cetera, you just felt that the Golden Knights should find a way to sustain pressure. And if low to high is not working, like at times, I think we saw more cycle this season than we did last season, especially from the more experienced players. So I think that's something where if you can't get it low to high, if you can't get it to the neutral zone, or if you can't get it into the blue paint, if you can't get into the slot, that's where you need a plan B and a plan C. And the plan B and plan C, guys, are those shots from odd angles. You just see so much of this happening in the playoffs. It's some I haven't been watching for. Maybe it's been happening more and more. I don't know, but you see these odd angle shots finding ways to get into the back of the net, or at least just creates havoc in front of the net. And, creativity, more odd angle shots from below the goal line, whatever it takes to just maybe throw the other team off a little bit. And you never know what will happen. So I think more creativity to complement the chemistry, the CNC, there you go. CNC Cassidy factory, more creativity to create havoc in front of the net.
Okay, this is all antihistamine aided for me. So last night I came home from the Aces game and I took a look at the Pacific Division and the record against the Pacific, which when Cassidy was in Beantown, he owned the Pacific Division, right? Okay, so last season, just 14-10-2 against the Pacific. And the Sharks, they beat 4 times out of those 14 games. So they're 500 team, basically, against the bottom tier was not very good. 14-9-3 against the Pacific in the Cup season. So 28-19-5. And this is a team in VGK. They beat the Sharks last 2 seasons, 6-1-1. And to me, they're not dominant in their own division. And again, that's the only thing I might be able to come back and
feels like a parking lot one right there. We could make a topic out of that. Tony, you blew it. Save it for next week. No one will remember we talked about it.
They won't remember. But here's the thing. So now, with better personnel or perhaps different tactics, the LA Kings with that 1-3-1, I'm just thinking about this out loud. Is that the type of defense that can stymie VGK?
Golden Knights do well against the 1-3-1. That's the thing. They commit to getting the puck deep, and I've talked about this a number of times on the show in pre-games against the Kings. And the Golden Knights, they start trying to, get through it at the blue line. It fails. They start dumping and chasing, and they, get the defense tired, and good things kind of start to happen right there. But yeah, I mean that's a good example. One counter, I guess, to the success from Boston when Cassidy was playing the Pacific, Pacific, outside of what the Golden Knights and the Kings and the Oilers for a lot of that time, wasn't very good. Kraken just coming into the league. Even the Oilers had times to struggle during the regular season, as did the Kings. So I think that's part of it. Also, teams going from the West Coast to the East Coast, playing those earlier games. I think that's a bigger disadvantage than the East Coast coming to the West Coast, personally. So that might be the explanation, but I think that's actually important to talk about the importance of improving in the Pacific Division.
Coming up next, we discuss VGK's goalie rotation this past season. Went a little bit longer than I expected there in that first
The
segment.
shows get longer when they get knocked out. This is kind of weird. I'm not going to lie.
Back with more right after this on Locked On Golden Knights. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year, and that is for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval, and you can avoid unnecessary medical. Policygenius is convenient and time-saving. Policygenius, they'll help you navigate and compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find the lowest price. And the thing that always gets me when we talk about Policygenius that you really need to consider, you really might not be as well covered as you think. In your work insurance policy, it really might not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, it might not come with you if you decide to leave your job. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from licensed experts and their support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance, thousands of five-star reviews, and you can find those reviews on Google and on Trustpilot. Check life insurance off of your to-do list today, and in no time at all, head to Policygenius, and you'll see that it really does work. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL, or you can click on the link right there in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back to this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Fridays, WTF Day, and Saturdays, the YouTube exclusive. And that is the Chris and Chris Jr. Show. We're going to talk about the VGK goaltenders, and we will talk about them and how the rotation was used. At times, a lot of questions from both Chris and I. LT, 46 games, Adin Hill, 35. On March 24th, he left that game in Columbus in the third period due to injury. Hill said that he is going to uncover every stone to remain healthy next season. Every Mark Stone? What's he talking about there? What did you think about the goalie rotation?
I didn't think it was good. Starting with my question to Kelly McCrimmon leading up to training camp, pardon me, where McCrimmon basically gave the vote of confidence to Yuri Patera being the next man up in the event Logan and or Aiden sustain injuries that keeps them out of the net. Well, McCrimmon was pretty satisfied with what he saw last season. So satisfied to the point where Coach Cassidy and goalie coach Sean Burke utilized Yuri Patera for 5 starts and a total of 6 appearances. Now, that might lend you to think, okay, Logan and Aiden had relatively healthy seasons. Not necessarily the case. Aiden, of course, had 3 different injury stints, if I recall. Logan had at least a few games where he was unavailable as well. So let's look at the goalie usage right now. Early in the season, it's about a 60-40 split. Both goalies are healthy. Everything is going fine. Adin Hill obviously is getting the net and no problems there. But then looking at some of these, like look at January for Logan Thompson.
10 starts.
It was 10 starts in January? Okay, yeah. So from
10 in January
1st,
10 in December.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Logan, that's pacing for nearly 60 starts when the dust settles, or 55 starts. That's just way too many starts for Logan Thompson. And then like there's so many stints where Logan plays like 6 games in like 14, 15, 16 days. And then Aiden Hill, the first question we can ask, I don't put this on Cassidy as much as I do the staff, but 18 days go by after Aiden Hill's injury in Vancouver. He plays 6 minutes in that game against Ottawa, has to leave, almost resulting in VGK utilizing the e-bug. The e-bug was in the dressing room getting ready and was told he was going into that game. That's something I don't think I've even ever talked about until
No,
right
you
now.
never
I really
talked
couldn't
about that.
earlier, but now I can talk about that because situations have changed. The e-bug was told he was going in to that game, and then Logan Thompson was able to get through it. So
how about this? How about this figure? 18 times this past season, Logan Thompson had more than 3 days. So 3+ days, 18 times this season, Logan Thompson was sitting on the pine. So more than 3 days, 18 times, and he was 11-6-1, I think, something like that. But there's a lot of time off there between games.
Look at February 20. So this is Aiden Hill's game log I'm looking at right now. February the 27th until basically March the 14th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe that was 7 consecutive starts. The Golden Knights might have had a back-to-back in there, but in any event, that's 7 starts in a very small window right there. That was when the quote came out, well, we're just trying, Logan had his time to be the man. Now we're going to see how Aiden is being the man and things like that. You saw down the stretch, obviously, they did everything they could to get Aiden Hill as many starts as they possibly could to see if he would be ready to go in the playoffs and be the man. And unfortunately, he faltered, but to Aiden's credit, he did really well in the playoffs. So my concerns, Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, both going 2 weeks approximately with the other player on the bench, or not utilizing Yuri Patera to get him more starts. Utilizing Yuri Patera would have been good on multiple reasons. One, Yuri needs the experience. Yuri Patera to this day and going into the offseason is still the 3rd goalie in the VGK system. Oh, by the way, 8 games played in his entire National Hockey League career, 1 season removed from Kelly McCrimmon saying he liked the picture that Yuri Patera painted in his mind about being an NHL goaltender. Okay, so now Yuri Patera is still very inexperienced heading into next season. Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson never got consecutive starts while Aiden Hill was healthy until the playoffs. That's concerning right there. Aiden Hill had a lot of trouble down the stretch. They kept trying to go to him, Coach Cassidy and Sean Burke, to get his game right, which cost the Golden Knights precious points in the standings. Going back to Mark Stone's quote at the exit interviews, the team needs to get themselves in a better spot so they're not going against the 1 seed Dallas Stars in that first round. I'll put part of that on Cassidy and their managing of the goalies, and I'm looking forward to giving my grade once we get to that point of the segment.
We saw Cassidy likes to play the hot hand. Is that sometimes to his detriment? Both him and Sean Burke. We never hear from Sean Burke. What's that?
I don't think it was the hot hand. I think it was Aiden Hill is the starter of the Vegas Golden Knights. If Aiden Hill can't play, Logan Thompson is the 1B, and they're going to run either goalie into the ground until they can't go anymore. I know that's not what they're trying to do, but that's what the end result ended up being. You got Yuri Patera, who seems to be someone on the rise, seems to be someone who could have done more. I mean, like I said, it does 2 things for the team if they go to Yuri Patera. It gets him more reps and more experience at the national level, and it also gets rest for Aiden and Logan, who both needed it, especially Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson just looked worn down so many times, and it's not because he doesn't have the stamina, just because he gives everything he has at every moment when he's on the ice. And this isn't just something you see in games, it's at practice as well. I've watched Logan a ton of times. Looks like you think he's injured in practice because that's how hard he's working.
Yeah. Cassidy at the start of the season said he did not like to platoon like goaltenders a lot in the postseason, and then he uses two goalies. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we're grading
Let's grade
something
him.
here.
What's your
And the
grade?
other thing
What?
too,
Oh, good.
I think that 8 games is enough for the other guy to earn his name on the cup. 8 games, your name should be on the Stanley Cup.
That's the minimum.
Yeah, that's. I think it's really good. He's earned his way with
Do
8
we
games.
call this the Braden Pahal rule then, or what are we doing here?
Oh boy. Okay, what are we grading?
I'm grading the rotation and
The rotation.
how Cassidy and Burke
Oh,
utilize.
C minus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find a way to get it to a D plus, and it's probably like a 70%, like the lowest possible C minus. Only reason I'll give it a C minus is because the Golden Knights goaltending was above the league average in goals against, and save percentage was right on the mark as well. So the result wasn't bad, and could it the team could have had a lot better success, I think, if the rotation would have been utilized a little bit better. So I'm with you. I'm going the lowest possible C minus, but we're not going to give him a D.
Yeah, and
C's get degrees, Tony. C's get
oh
degrees.
boy, the fans were all over Logan Thompson. By the way, he was at the Aces game last night. Big fan. So it's good to see him there. And he wasn't limping or anything else like a season ago. Okay, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We're going to take a break. We return.
I thought you were killing the show right there. We got our segment.
I wanted to kill the show right there. Okay, the NHL playoff recap. That's next right here on Locked On Golden Knights. It is winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. We don't say do or die. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big, big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on point spreads, on money lines, player props, and more. And don't forget, you could find on FanDuel the odds for the Preakness at Pimlico this weekend.
Ooh, let's go.
All right, $150. That's right. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights, Tony Cardasco and Mr. I Got a New Job, Chris Gully.
I do. I have a new hat. I have another hat for my big
Another
hat.
hat. We like to carry many on this show.
I mean, entrepreneur life, I guess. No, so really quickly, obviously everyone here knows my love for hockey cards and hockey collectibles, and we're gonna parlay, Tony. We got a parlay going. We're gonna parlay that with the hockey news, and I am now the site manager for their collectibles content page. So, long story short, I'm writing articles about hockey cards, hockey memorabilia, news in the hockey card and memorabilia world, and things like that. My first article did go live yesterday, and it's just kind of different ways to utilize and cash in on the Connor Bedard hype without buying Connor Bedard cards. So that's kind of the premise of yesterday's article. I'm going to have probably some coming up tomorrow, recapping a new release and just kind of some tips and tricks in the industry. And who knows? It's a blank slate, so I'm really, really excited to take on this endeavor with hockey news.
Now, we've always talked about you doing a card show on this very show, and
yeah, we have.
Didn't your agent tell me we needed to pay more money for something like that to happen to occur?
Yeah, pay me money. I don't know. I don't know.
Your wife, I think. Yeah,
my wife.
That's your agent. No,
let's talk.
Congrats again. Turnabout is fair play. Boston beats Florida last night on a goal in which Bobrovsky claimed there was goalie interference.
That was so soft. Wow, I'm shocked they challenged that. I'm shocked that was a challenge by Maurice.
3-2 now. Florida leads. Morgan Geekie and Charlie McAvoy with goals. Game 6 coming up on Friday in Boston. And Boston just one goalie interference call away from being in the lead in that series.
I guess when you shake it out like that, sure, that's interesting. It's a fun series. And I mean, honestly, we got a shot for 3 Game 7s the way this is all of a sudden going. Tony, you're not happy about that, though.
Oh, no. I'm miserable, dude. At least my Knicks won last night, so that was good news.
Typical New Yorker claiming the other teams after one of his other teams starts to suck.
Oh my gosh. Vancouver's Rick Tocchet. 5 or 6 guys got to get going. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Some guys, I don't think that they know it. They don't know that it's the playoffs.
Talking with some big words there. That's some Vegas Golden Knights language right there.
He said, "What are we supposed? We can't play with just 12 guys." Is his quote. That's awesome. Edmonton topping Vancouver 3-2. Paul
Crazy
Maurice
game, fun game.
Paul Maurice in between the first and second periods last night, just screaming at his team. As they came back on the ice, he's still livid, yelling
His
at them.
post-game presser, if you saw it, was absolutely dynamite. He was asked about, because there was a tirade on the bench that they showed, and they go score a goal right afterwards, and you could see him F-bombs and whatever. So they ask him in the post-game about it, and Paul Maurice kind of smiles for a second. He's like, I just thought the team needed more profanity in their life. And then he kind of pauses. Then he says, F me. See, I'm good at this, or something like that. It was so good. It was so good.
Oh, the Edmonton game. That was fantastic.
That was fun. I watched the third period. That was a lot of fun.
Minute and change, you watched the game, right? So 3-2 final. Edmonton wins. Many questioning today and last night if Leon Draisaitl knocked the puck down with his stick above his shoulders.
Ooh,
there on Evan Bouchard's game winner with 38 seconds to go. A minute earlier, we saw that it was who was it? Dakota Joshua. I forget that guy's first name.
Darnell Nurse was out there. That's all you need to know. Darnell Nurse was out there, and really fast. I mean, I'm all over.
Score, and then they come back, and Edmonton wins.
Really fast. I'm all over Knobloch and Edmonton's coaching issues and stuff like that. I would be the first one to talk your ear off about how I believe a lot gets screwed up, but Knobloch got it done yesterday. Big goalie move, changes as far as the lines went and everything. Like Knobloch really put his thumbprint on last night's game and got a win. It wasn't pretty, but it's the playoffs. Who cares? So Knobloch needs to get a lot of. I want to make sure I'm clear about this. I know Edmonton people watch to see what I say sometimes about Knobloch. Knobloch should get a ton of credit for last night's victory over the Vancouver Canucks.
He was going wild on the bench after that first goal.
Is this where you insert? Never mind. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna talk about cheering in the press. I'm not gonna do it. No.
Okay. But the Avs Stars today 3-1 series lead for the Stars. Do we see the handshake line tonight in Dallas?
Probably. I mean, Colorado, you got the distractions again, unfortunately.
And Georgiev is who we said he was. I didn't think he was very good with the Rangers.
No, Tony, you've been on Georgiev since he left New York. I mean, you've really.
I think he was great. I didn't think he was good.
Yeah, I mean, all the way around, you thought he was good, didn't think he was great, but yeah, or you thought he was great. I don't know. Whatever.
I never thought he was good.
Gotcha. Okay. Point being is Georgiev, like you said, and it's not just Georgiev, it's the defense. Like it's the defense and the goaltending in Colorado, kind of what Edmonton's been up to. But that said, Edmonton's been playing pretty decent defense, obviously, in this series against Vancouver. And I guess the storyline, Demko's out there still taking shots and stuff. Like, is this a possibility? Like, ACL is what I heard, and is he somehow going to get out there? That's just that's crazy talk. But if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. And the Rangers Rangers Canes on Thursday. So they gave them an extra day. It's
an extra day off. So it was only game tonight, Dallas, Colorado.
Yeah, it's rigged.
They
gave them.
They got a long flight.
That helps. That helps my Rangers. I called Bettman. I said, "Hey, we'll stop blasting you if about VGK scheduling. If you just give me a little bit of a break with the
Rangers." You have a BLT with Bettman?
I should. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. Yeah, my creativity was stifled by a coach this past year, so I should be doing BLTs. We appreciate everyone tuning in, especially our everydayers. Of course, Mr. BLT himself, Chris Kolick. Appreciate him. We appreciate the Chris Times Chris Jr. show on Saturdays on YouTube, and on Fridays it's WTF. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Tony Cardasco for Chris Kolick, right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.